If you're using your 2005 to 2023 Tacoma to its fullest extent, or even if you've just got a lot of miles on the clock, as these trucks are one to do, one of the casualties may be your front axle. What we've got here is an OE-style bolt-in replacement for your stock axle for less than the price you'd pay at your Toyota dealer, and it's going to help get your truck driving like new in no time. On a four-wheel drive truck, the front axles and CV joints can take a beating. They are putting in a lot of work, especially if you're using four-wheel drive, or if you've got a lift kit on there, or even if you're just using your truck like a truck is meant to be used. And if even one of the CV joints starts to bind, you're going to have a hard time getting your truck moving or getting power to the ground. Not to mention the absolutely horrible clicking and grinding noises these can make when they go bad. So what we've got here is a factory-style replacement drive axle with pre-greased CV joints. Now this is made to be an exact replacement for your factory unit, meaning that it's going to bolt right in, no modifications needed. And it also features pre-lubricated joints plus brand new boots and clamps, so it comes ready to mount up right out of the box, get your truck rolling smoothly and safely again without any fuss. Now it is worth noting, of course, this is just one axle. If you really only need one, then here you go. I usually recommend doing these in pairs if possible, but I'm very much a while you're in there sort of guy, and I'd rather know and do the preventative maintenance. So if you want to do both, you will either need to buy these separately, or you can get the fully matched set of the same thing that we have available on our site, so just keep that in mind as you're shopping. As you probably picked up on throughout the video, because I've said it several times, this is built to mimic the stuff that came on your truck from the factory. It's made from the same type of materials as factory components, and you're going to find heat-treated ball tracks covered with brand new moly grease, encased by these brand new neoprene boots. And it comes assembled just as you see it here right out of the box, even includes a new axle nut. And it makes the job about as worry-free as it can get for something like this. We'll talk more about install momentarily. Pricing comes in at about $325, and that makes this a really affordable option. Plus, it's going to save you quite a bit of money versus the equivalent part from Toyota, because just one axle from them is about 2/3 more expensive than this. So you're saving quite a bit of money and getting what is essentially the same type of part. Installation gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you around 2 hours to complete. Again, this is a bolt-in replacement, doesn't require you to make any modifications to the truck itself, though there is quite a bit of disassembly required to get the old one out and get this new one in. Once you get some stuff out of the way though, this is going to swap right in place, no problem. But fret not, this is a job you can tackle at home given the right tools and enough time. We're going to head out to the shop right now where we'll walk you through it step by step.
Tools required for this install include impact gun, ratchet, rubber mallet, hammer, needle nose pliers, chisel, a couple pry bars, 10mm Allen socket, 10, 12, 17, 19, and 35mm sockets, and some gear oil. Today we're installing axles on our Tacoma, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is remove our sway bar end link as well as our brake line bracket right below it. So grab a 17mm socket for your end link. Now I'm just going to pull down on the sway bar to pop that out. And then switch to a 12mm socket and remove the bolt holding in your brake line bracket. And then you can pop that out of place. Now I'm going to come up to our upper control arm and remove the bolt holding in our ABS bracket. It's a 10mm socket for this bolt. Next we're going to pop off our cap to get access to our axle nut. So just take a chisel and get it right in between the gap there, and then take a hammer, and we're just going to work our way around to get it to pop out, and then we'll just press it up. And then once you have it moving, you can wedge it in there, put it up against the rotor, and just pop it out, and then we'll work on our axle nut. So now grab a pair of needle nose pliers to bend your cotter pin back straight. Pull that through, get that cap off. Then we can grab a 35mm axle socket to remove our nut. Next I'm going to remove the 2 bolts on our lower ball joint cradle, and then we can pop our axle out of the knuckle and slide this over to the side. So grab a 19mm socket and pop these out. So now I'm just going to wiggle the knuckle to pop it off of the lower control arm. If this axle goes back, then great. If not, we'll take a rubber mallet and give it some wax here to push it back. And it's not popping out, so I'm going to take a rubber mallet and just give it some good wax until it starts moving. And now that's free. So I'm going to pull on the knuckle push my axle backwards and pop it out. So now we just need to pop our axle out of the diff. Now I've got a drain pan here ready to go for when I pop this out to catch all the fluid that'll fall out. Now we're doing this on a lift, so ours is sitting flat. That's why we're gonna lose fluid. If you're doing this on the ground on jack stands, you can jack up one side to put it at an angle so that all your fluid's gonna be on that side so you don't lose any. So I'm gonna take a couple of pry bars. I'm just gonna get back behind each side. I'm gonna use these bolts on our diff mount to pry against, and we're just gonna give it one shove and pop it right up. And now it's pop free, so I'm gonna move my drain pan underneath. I'll pull it the rest of the way out. And I'm just gonna let this hang out and drip here for a minute, but once you got this one out, you can do the same thing on the other side. So now we're gonna take our new axle and slide it through, get it into our diff. We're gonna turn this until our splines line up. Now once you have those splines lined up, I'm gonna give it a good shove from the other side to get it to go in and seat into place. So now I'm gonna pull out on my knuckle, and then I'll slide my axle in and get my splines lined up. And then I can thread on that axle nut. And I'm going to thread that nut on as far as I can get it by hand, just to ensure that my splines are all lined up and it stays in there. And I'll tighten that down with a 35mm axle socket. Now we're going to reinstall that cover. Now you want to make sure that you orient it so that you have access to that hole for the cotter pin. Tap that the rest of the way through. And then we're gonna take my needle nose pliers, bend those away from each other. And then you can get your cap, get that lined up, and then take a rubber mallet to smack it on. Next we can install our lower ball joint cradle bolts. So I'm using a 19mm socket to help me line this up. Now once you have them both threading in by hand, take your 19mm socket and tighten them down. Now lastly, we can reinstall our ABS and brake line brackets, as well as our sway bar end link. Then take a 10mm socket to tighten down the top. A 12mm socket for the brake line bracket, and a 17mm socket for your sway bar end link. And then you can repeat the whole process on the other side. So now once we're done installing our axles, we can come to the driver's side. We're gonna remove our fill plug and fill our diff back up with fluid. Now I have our stock axle back in here because the ones that we installed aren't gonna be staying on here, so I wasn't gonna refill it until we had these back in. So I'm going to take a 10mm Allen socket to break that fill plug loose. And then I'm just going to spin it out with that socket. And then you're going to need some 75W85 GL5 gear oil. So I've got it in a squeeze bag to make it a little easier. We're going to squeeze fluid into the diff until we have a steady stream trickling out of our fill hole, and then we'll put our plug back in. And now I'm out of that bag, so I'm going to get a new one and continue to fill this. So now I've got a steady stream coming out, so I'm going to thread in that drain plug. And I'll just grab my ratchet, snug that down. And I'm just going to wipe away all my excess fluid that dripped down. And now we're good to go. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the front CV axle shaft for your 2005 to 23 Tacoma. Thank you for watching, and for all things Tacoma, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.